Hey there, and welcome back to Insights from Inside. I'm Amanda Armstrong, and if you're listening to this while folding laundry, driving carpool, or hiding in your car for 5 minutes apiece, I see you. Let's be honest, some days gratitude feels impossible. Your kid melted down at school pickup. Homework took 3 hours. Dinner was a battle. And now it's 9 p.m., you're completely exhausted, and someone on Instagram is telling you to practice gratitude. And you're like, for what exactly? I get it, I've been there. I am there some days. But here's what I've learned after 2 decades as an educator and as a mom of 4 kiddos. Gratitude isn't about pretending the hard stuff doesn't exist. It's not about toxic positivity or forcing yourself to be thankful when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's about finding meaning in the mess. And for parents of neurodiverse kids, that shift from waiting for the good days to appreciate the growth happening right now can be life-changing. So today we're talking about how to find gratitude in the messy middle of parenting. Not the Instagram perfect version, the real, exhausting, beautiful, frustrating, actual middle. Now let's dive in. First, let's talk about why growth doesn't look the way we think it should. Dweck's research on growth mindset, and if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I talk about her work a lot, makes one thing crystal clear. Progress doesn't happen in a straight line. People with growth mindsets understand that setbacks, plateaus, and messy middle phases are part of learning. They're not evidence of failure, they're just part of the process. But here's the problem. Our culture celebrates outcomes. We post the A+ paper on the fridge, not the 6 drafts it took to get there. We celebrate the winning goal, not the 100 missed shots in practice. And we share the graduation photo, not the 2 a.m. study sessions and panic attacks and the times they almost gave up. And for neurodiverse families, this is especially painful because our kids' progress often looks like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Breakthroughs followed by regressions. Skills that show up at home but completely disappear at school, an effort that doesn't always match results. And if we're only grateful for the wins, the milestones, the breakthroughs, the moments when everything finally clicks, we're missing the whole story. We're missing the 700 nights of showing up, the small moments of trying, the invisible growth that's happening even when we can't see it yet. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So let's talk about what gratitude actually does for us and for our kids. Research shows that gratitude practices improve mental health, reduce stress, and increase resilience. And honestly, as parents of neurodiverse kids, we need all 3 of those things, right? But here's what matters for growth mindset parents. Gratitude shifts our focus from what's missing to what's growing. When we practice gratitude for the process, not just the outcome, we're teaching our brains and our kids' brains to notice progress even when it's messy, even when it's slow, even when it doesn't look like what we've expected. In her 2014 TED Talk, which if you haven't watched it, go watch it, it's amazing, Dweck describes how students with growth mindsets engage more deeply with challenges and recover faster from setbacks. They don't need perfection to feel motivated. They find value in the learning itself. And that's what gratitude in the messy middle looks like. Finding value in the effort even when the outcome isn't there yet. It's saying, I'm grateful my kids sat down and tried, even though homework was a disaster. It's thinking, I'm grateful we made it through the day, even though it was hard. Or it's noticing the small wins, the tiny moments of growth, even when the big picture still feels really overwhelming. So I have experienced the messy middle a ton of times. And in one specific aspect of my life, the messy middle was really frustrating. So let me tell you about my relationship with running, because I think it's a perfect metaphor for what the messy middle kind of actually looks like and feels like. I've always been a runner. Like, it's been part of my identity since high school. Running was my stress relief, my thinking time, my way of feeling strong and capable. But after having both my kids, I had to rebuild my endurance from scratch. My pregnancies were pretty difficult on me, and let me tell you, the messy middle was actually painful. I'd put in the hours, I'd show up, I'd lace up my shoes and head out the door, but I'd have to walk a lot, and my legs would burn, my lungs would feel like they were on fire. Some days I was just completely exhausted and I didn't even want to go. but I'd make myself because I was determined to get back to where I used to be. And the hardest part was going out for a run knowing I couldn't run as fast or as far as I used to. Like I'd see my old race times in my running app and I'd think I used to be able to run a 10K without stopping. Now I can barely make it 2 miles without walking. And it was so frustrating because I was putting in the work, I was showing up, but the results were not there. But here's what was actually happening in that messy middle part. Even though I couldn't see it at the time, I was rebuilding muscle memory even though my pace was slower. I was learning to tolerate discomfort even though it hurt. I was showing up consistently even though I wanted to quit. And I was recognizing growth as a process, not just an end game. That was growth. I just couldn't see it yet because I was comparing myself to the before version, the runner I used to be. And here's the thing about the messy middle that nobody tells you. You don't always know you're in it. You can lose sight of the road. You don't always know where the finish line is or if there even is one. In some ways, parenting is actually easier than personal growth. With our kids, the end game is clear. Get them to a happy, healthy finish line. It's an 18 to 25-year commitment, but at least you know what you're working towards. But your own growth, that's murkier. You don't always know when or if you'll get there. And that uncertainty, that's what makes the messy middle so hard to appreciate. But whether it's running, parenting, or personal growth, the principle is the same. Progress isn't about the finish line, it's about showing up in the middle, even when it burns. Even when you can't see the progress yet. Even when you're comparing yourself to who you used to be or who you think you should be by now. It's about recognizing that the messy middle is the growth, not the obstacle to it. So how do we actually do this? How do we find gratitude when things feel really hard? Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that just to be grateful when your kid is melting down or you're drowning in IEP paperwork or you haven't slept through the night in 3 months. Gratitude in the messy middle is not about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about noticing what's working even when most things aren't. So here are 4 practical ways to practice it. First, gratitude for effort, not just results. Instead of saying and thinking things like, I wish he'd finish his homework without a fight, start saying, I'm grateful he sat down and tried, even though it was hard. This reframes effort as valuable, even when the outcome isn't perfect. And Carol Dweck's research shows that praising effort, not talent, not results, leads to greater persistence and resilience. So when your kid tries and fails, you're not saying, well, at least you tried, in that dismissive way. You're genuinely celebrating the fact that they showed up, that they didn't give up before they had even started. Secondly, instead of thinking something like today was a disaster, I can't wait for it to be over, try saying today was hard, but we made it through. I'm grateful we're learning how to handle tough days together. This is developing gratitude for the hard days. It teaches kids and us that hard days aren't failures. They're part of the process. And growth mindset research shows that people who view challenges as opportunities, not threats, recover faster and perform better over time. So when you have a terrible day, you're not erasing it or pretending it didn't happen. You're acknowledging it and recognizing that you survived it. That's growth. Third is having gratitude for what your child can do. This one is huge for neurodiverse families. Instead of focusing on the gaps, things like they can't sit still, they can't focus, they can't finish tasks, try noticing strengths. They're creative, curious, persistent, maybe kind. Because here's the thing, neurodiverse kids hear that they're not good all day long. At school, at therapy, sometimes even at home. They're constantly being measured against a standard that they're never going to meet. And when we practice gratitude for the strengths, we're building our identity around growth, not the deficits. We're saying, I see who you are, not just what you can't do yet. Finally, have gratitude for your own growth. And this one is the one I struggle with personally the most. Instead of saying, I'm a terrible parent, I yelled again, try saying, I'm grateful, I'm learning. I noticed I yelled, and next time I'll try a different strategy. Parents need growth mindsets too. When we model self-compassion and learning from mistakes, we're teaching our kids that growth applies to everyone, not just them. We're showing them that adults mess up, that we're still learning, that it's okay to not have all the answers. And honestly, that might be the most important lesson we can teach them. Also, I'm not going to tell you to start a gratitude journal. If that works for you, great, keep doing it. But here's what works for me and my family. End of day wins and tries. Every night at dinner or bedtime or whenever we remember, because let's be real, some nights we forget, we each share two things. We share one win, something we're proud of today, big or small, and one try, something we tried even if it didn't work. So for example, Riley might say, I remembered to turn in my homework, but his try was, I tried to stay calm when I got frustrated in math, but I still yelled. And I might say, win, I didn't yell when you forgot your backpack. And I would say for my try, I tried to stay patient during homework, but I got frustrated. And here's what this practice does. First, it celebrates progress, the win. Second, it normalizes failure, the try. And third, it models growth. It models a mindset for everyone. Because when I share my try, when I admit that I messed up or that something didn't work, I'm showing my kids that I'm still learning too, that growth isn't just for them, it's for all of us. And here's what's beautiful. Over time, my kids started noticing their own progress. They'd say things like, last month I would have given up, but today I kept trying. Or I used to hate asking for help, but today I asked my teacher and it actually helped. That's growth mindset in action. That's them recognizing their own messy middle and finding value in it. And that's what makes all of this worth it. So here's what I want you to know. Wherever you are right now, whatever you're going through, you don't have to be grateful for the hard stuff. You don't have to be thankful for ADHD or autism or anxiety or other learning disabilities. You don't have to be grateful for the meltdowns or the sleepless nights or the IEP meetings or just the constant worry. You don't have to pretend like any of that is a gift. But you can be grateful for what the hard stuff is teaching you and your child. Because in the messy middle, we're learning things like resilience and how to keep going when it's hard. We're learning problem solving, how to try new strategies when the first 10 don't work. And we're learning self-compassion. So we're learning how to be kind to ourselves when we fail. And we're also really learning perseverance, how to show up, even when the progress is slow, even when it's invisible. Those are the skills that matter, not the grades, not the milestones, not the on-track benchmarks that some chart says your kids should be hitting. And when we practice gratitude for the messy middle, the effort, the tries, and the tiny wins, we're teaching our kids that they don't have to be perfect to be enough. We're teaching them that growth is messy, that it's slow, that it doesn't always look the way we think it should, but it is still growth. So here's your challenge this week. Start an end of day wins and tries practice with your family. It can be at dinner, at bedtime, in the car on the way to school, whenever works for you. Ask, what is one thing you're proud of today, and what is one thing you tried even if it didn't work? And here's the key. Model it yourself. Share your own wins and tries. Show your kids that growth mindset applies to everyone, including you. Because gratitude in the messy middle isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about noticing that we're all growing, even when it's hard, and that is worth celebrating. I want to thank you so much for listening today. I know that sometimes it's hard to find a moment to listen to anything or do anything for yourself, so I really appreciate the time that you are giving me, and I do not take it lightly whatsoever. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a DM on Instagram at Insight Education Academy or leave a review wherever you're listening. And remember, keep showing up, even when it burns. I'll see you next week.